Hello and welcome to Stereotypical. Just a little caveat before we get into the bulk of the episode. Today's episode is going to be Disclosure, Ranked, but unfortunately we filmed this episode a few weeks ago before they did the surprise drop of their fourth album, Alchemy, so it won't be included in the main ranking. However, we will come on at the end, discuss the album, give our thoughts, but just thought we'd get that out of the way before we began. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Stereotypical, the podcast about music and the people that make it. My name is Liam McGrath. I am, as always, joined by Mr. Jack O'Neill. Today, coming at you with the first episode in a while, the first ranked episode in a good long while. I can't remember the last ranked episode.
Feels like it's been a while, actually, doesn't it?
It does feel like it's been a while. For those who haven't seen Stereotypical Ranked before or listened to any of the Stereotypical Ranked episodes, basically the premise is that me and Jack take a look at some of our favourite artists, people that we admire, people that we're fans of, and then we rank their back catalogue worst to best.
Yeah, do you know what? For a minute then, I forgot how we're structured. I forgot which one we do.
You forget? It's been that long. You forgot.
It is, yeah.
Well, today we're going to be looking at everybody's favourite.
Hang on, you just fucking throw me there, you know. You
DJs.
Just throw me then. Everyone's favourite DJs. Something that far about going.
Well, maybe my favourite DJs then.
Really?
Potentially. It's Disclosure. Spoiler, it's Disclosure.
I don't see Disclosure as DJs.
No, and they DJ predominantly now, but I did prefer it when they used to play live, like an electronic band.
When I think of Disclosure and like playing live, I think of that Red Bull Academy sort of video.
Yeah.
That's what I'd imagine Disclosure doing.
Yeah.
I actually had the chance to watch Disclosure at Leeds.
You seen him? Yeah, I didn't realise.
I didn't go. No, I didn't go.
You?
No.
Oh man, I would have ate that up.
I can't remember who I went and saw instead, so it couldn't have been anyone that good. Oh, hang on. It was Duke Dumont.
Oh, what?
Duke Dumont
in the
dance
with
tent,
you?
man.
See if you chose Duke Dumont over Disclosure. I actually messaged you a while ago being like, oh, Disclosure are doing Warehouse Project, we should go.
You did?
And you said...
Nah.
You said yeah, but you got back to me too late. You left like a week and the tickets had already gone on sale and sold out, so... It's your fault that I've not seen Disclosure. Pieing me off.
You should have just got on
once again.
And just told me later that we're going.
Well, we'll go next time, we tour. I think
the thing is with Warehouse, like I've never been before, so I don't really know what it's like. But usually with gigs, what I like about gigs actually these days is like I usually like people more afterwards.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than going to see someone that I like, which I know is going to be good. Sometimes, like when you go to festivals and you see people you don't know, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I'll be more inclined to listen to them and prefer them probably a bit more. So maybe if we do go and watch Disclosure, it'll be different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll probably like them a bit more than I do now.
I was going to say, where do you sit with them now?
So
just casual fan.
I'd say casual fan. Yeah. If they've got like a song in the charts, it'll be good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out of my... Like, I've never listened to full Disclosure albums before this.
Right.
It's the first time I've listened to the albums.
Interesting.
Entirely. We're not doing Deluxe album because I've not listened to any of the Deluxe albums.
No. I would maybe describe myself as slightly more than casual fan. I do really enjoy a bit of Disclosure.
You watch a lot of stream clips, don't you?
I did watch a lot of... During the pandemic, I was very into Disclosure streams. And that's sort of around the time that I was, like, getting into dance music anyway. I think they were one of the first acts that sort of really took me into that realm. You know what I mean? Obviously, I knew about them like back in the day, like when we were in college and stuff. That's when they had the hits and stuff.
Yeah, like I think it's why you say that, like how you got into dance music through this Disclosure in that way. Because I wouldn't have them up on anyone's like dance artist list.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's just because like they just under the radar a little bit. But like usually when like albums come out by DJs or like dance producers, which they pretty much are, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
Like it's usually someone. Not usually. It's usually someone big. It's usually hyped up, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're releasing new stuff, but with Disclosure, I don't feel that way.
Do you not?
No. Like when that last album came out, I remember you was like, "Oh, have you heard it yet? Have you heard it yet?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, man. It's nothing that interests me. If something is good on it, I feel like I'll hear it in passing,
right? Okay,
rather than going out of my way."
Yeah. Okay, well, so...
Not to discredit them.
No, they are good, of course. And they've got classics, they've got bangers. Okay, well, let's jump right in. So we're going to be doing the 3 Disclosure albums today. Energy, Caracal, and Settle.
Caracal.
The way this works is we will count down our list.
Oh, God, I actually...
You've forgotten this?
Yeah.
From worst to best, but we'll only go in depth on an album when we've both listed it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I remember. It's the first time I don't have paper notes, though, to be fair. So it's throwing me off.
You got phone notes.
Yeah, I
though,
got
right?
phone notes.
Right.
Usually I'd have paper notes to go off, and I have them stacked in order.
Yeah. Have you done your whole rank
Yeah,
each
man.
song?
Of course, man.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Jack gives every song a score and then aggregates the
It's
points.
the
and all this shit.
mathematical way and the correct way to do it.
Whereas I go on feeling a lot more. I don't have any notes today. Just free balling it, man. Just raw dogging it.
Raw dogging it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
number 3,
the worst.
the least best. Shall we
If
say?
that's what you want to say, I'm going the latest album,
Energy.
the third one.
I am also going to say Energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a bit about that then.
It's hard when you start off on the latest album in your list of least favourite to most favourite.
Yeah.
Just going off the individual tracks alone. Well, first of all, it's different, isn't it? It's a different album than the ones they've produced beforehand.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have... First of all, the thing that pissed me off is that the deluxe album is twice as long.
Right.
How there's, like-
It might have all the EPs that they put
No, it's just
out
got like
leading up to it.
singles and stuff like Talk with Khalid is on this deluxe album.
Of Energy.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? That's
Do you know what I
good.
mean? It's a massive song.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it came out afterwards or whatnot. But
No, it came out before.
it's like 12 tracks in it, that album.
Yeah.
And the B-side is like 12 tracks again.
That's mad.
If I was a hardcore Disclosure fan, right, new album comes on the shelves, we're being nice to the musicians, you know what I mean? We're buying physical albums,
Yeah.
treating them,
Yeah.
paying them.
As I
wages.
often do.
Exactly. And then 3 weeks later, they bring out the deluxe album, which is twice as long.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like, is it all new material or is it, as you say, like, there's some songs that have already been
I'm not
out
going to
on-
lie, I don't know. I can't 100% tell you whether the originals, remixes or whatnot. I just seen this was that album, and then so this is album 1 and this is deluxe album.
Yeah.
Double whammy.
Because I know, like, for example, the 1975's debut, the deluxe version of that has the 4 EPs on it that preceded the album, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it was just, like, putting everything in that era on one project. So I maybe have to look at the track listing to...
Like, I don't mind if like stuff comes out later and stuff, and like you can stream it. But if you're going out and buying stuff,
Yeah.
like obviously not everyone is going to go out and
Yeah,
buy both.
I don't think
things.
it's... I assume it's not going to be, like, a double album. Like, it's not going to be a complete other 12 tracks of new material.
I just looked at it and thought, nah, I'm not even getting involved in this.
I'm going to look into it while we're talking. Good. Carry on.
But yeah, so this third album is different. What I do think about it is the most polished.
Sonically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell there's a clear path of them getting better at producing and just getting better finished sounded songs.
Yeah.
But it's a different sort of dance music, isn't it, this third one?
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot more sort of... Like-
More, it's hard, because it's hard to put like labels on what they do.
Yeah.
But it's more like housey, and it's more like
Yeah, there's a lot more garage
shuffly sort of.
influence, I would say. Yeah. So looking at this, I think it's mainly the deluxe has got stuff from the preceding EP and then just like some remixes and stuff. Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely more polished. I think that's a good thing in a lot of respects. Like the mixes are better, the production is sort of it's more refined. But I think that by the time you get to Energy, they've almost got a bit formulaic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what I like about some of their older stuff is that they were figuring out how to make dance music and doing it in their way. Whereas I feel like some of the stuff on Energy is just a bit more derivative, and it's more like, okay, this is house music or garage that could be made by anybody.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of influence coming into this third album, where the first two are definitely like established things that they were good at.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I comment on the use of like percussion and stuff through the first two, and how it's like a bit mad, but it's like ear candy almost.
Yeah.
Like every song has something in there. And like, do you remember like the Chaos Pad from college?
Yeah.
Like the third album is like a little Chaos Pad going off every now and again.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like we always talk about, like when people bring out new things, if it's not what you like or it's not what you used to, there's always the previous stuff to go back and listen to. But I do also feel like there's a level of expectation considering how close the first two albums are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You had to wait a while for the third one.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Well, I think, there's positives about it. There is songs on there that I really like. There's features on there that I like.
Yeah.
I really like Watch Your Step with Khalees. No? Yeah, it is Khalees on Watch Your Step. And Marley Marley's a good tune. But I just think in general, as an album, it sort of feels smaller. You know what I mean?
Bless you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
In terms of
the first two felt like more of a statement, whereas this one sort of it's a bit more passive. It washes over you a bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like the tracks were a bit longer. I feel like they're a bit more repetitive. Like I when I was doing my notes and I was like ranking each song individually, there was always like references to the club. Do you know what I mean? Like some songs you'd like, oh, this must be for the club.
Yeah.
Where I feel like a lot of this last album is less songy and more the club tracks.
Yeah, definitely. And also,
even though like some of them are produced and like arranged stuff, you can tell it's just like used like mix in and mix out of all snippet and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I think also like that is sort of evident by the fact that there's no, like, they don't sing on it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no Howard vocals on it at
Yeah,
all.
that's one thing I liked about when they did have their original vocals, or there was like sampling themselves.
Yeah. I would almost say that some of the tracks that they've released since this album, stuff like You Gotta Let Go If You Want to Be Free with Zed and Waterfall with Ray, or Never Enough, they're actually better
than the album track.
The stuff that's ended up on the album.
Yeah, I don't really like I feel like we're shitting on it a lot here, right?
Yeah, no, there's
but
good
the
songs on there.
music is ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Like
if the production's tight as fuck as well.
Yeah, it's literal madness. Like I can't comprehend how tight it is.
Yeah.
But like another thing, I don't really like the running order.
Yeah,
I don't think it works that well. But because a lot of it is similar to each other,
it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but like
the interludes kind of threw me as well because they don't match the aesthetic of the other songs.
They're not very like interlude-ish. I thought that last song, the closer with Common on, would have been a really good interlude.
Yeah, and it probably would have been better to close on the one with Sid and Birthday. But then again, that being on that album is a bit weird because that's very much more like R&B, and the whole of the rest of the album doesn't really have any of those flavours in it at all.
I think it's good sometimes because you have like that sort of journey, but it just didn't flow.
It wasn't a start point to an end point journey. It kind of spent a lot of time in one area and then jumped to another area.
It seemed more like a collective than an album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I guess like did it come out in 2020?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just like a sign of the times or what was going on because it is very like summery and uplifting.
Yeah.
And I remember that time being like very bright and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was like
like Marley does make me think of that time a lot. That was like one of my big tunes of that summer.
Yeah.
And it does have those vibes to it, and I still listen to it now and think of the sort of the weather being like that, and any positives that did come out of that really negative time are sort of very much attached to that tune. And I kind of like how bits of the album are a bit like, I don't know what the word is, man.
Go on.
Like, you know how Marley is like, it's sung in a different language and it's got these like different flavours from like different parts of world music. Same with Energy and the whole like
Ainsley
sample
Harriott was in the studio.
Yeah, just putting a little, like...
Yeah, boy.
I like that about it, but I just think as a whole album, it doesn't necessarily run as smooth or do as much interesting stuff as their other albums.
There is a good few gems in it.
Yeah.
But as an album, like, after listening to it, I was a bit disappointed. But maybe that's because I was built up from previous ones.
Okay, well, let's move on to our number 2 place. What have you got in number 2?
So... the first and the second album, I had ranked the exact same.
Score-wise,
yeah.
That's crazy.
Very crazy. The third one was less, hence being third, but I felt different about it anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with, I think the second album.
It's going to be your number 2.
Would be number 2.
I am also putting Caracal at number 2. It's crazy. It's going to be the first one we agree on all of everything. The albums. Yeah.
Maybe it's just because they've got that sound, and like you were saying before, like they've got the formula of what makes a good Disclosure track.
Yeah.
Like we'll get into the first album in a minute, but like the second one definitely builds on what they've done beforehand.
Yeah.
But just not as like zesty.
Yeah, I think that the energy is just a bit different, you know, like, and I admire that in some respects. I admire that there's a lot more R&B and that they've slowed the tempo a little bit sometimes. But it definitely doesn't have that, like, that power that some of the first one has. And there are big tunes on this second album. You think about Omen with Sam Smith.
Crazy
or,
song.
the tune with The Weeknd, or the Magnets with Lord. I love that song, even though it doesn't sound like anything like Disclosure. I do appreciate how they were like changing it up a bit on this album. And I think it was maybe needed after the first album, because if they'd have just done the same, you know, track list of housey bangers again, people would have been like, okay. But the fact that they mixed it up a bit. They got different kinds of artists in, different kind of singers on the tracks. They changed the tempo a bit. You know, it's still got a lot of the things that we think of as Disclosure.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the weird chords and shit.
Yeah.
But it is a bit different.
Yeah, I agree with most of them points, to be fair. Like, I feel like looking at the Disclosure tracks and what I like about them and what I think makes them who they are, like, it's almost like a checklist. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have this in their music, and when they usually have this, it works and it's done well.
Right.
Whether they do it on purpose or that's just what they like doing and they know they're good at it, like, I'm not asked. Do you know what I mean? It makes it good.
Yeah.
I just think, like I've said before, there's just less pizzazz in this one. Maybe it's just like, obviously that first album just might have been like just like pure rawness of like making music and enjoying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely is more polished again than the first one.
I think it goes back to what I was saying before, though. The first album is, and we'll talk about this in more depth in a sec, the first album is sort of them still working out how to do things, and the second album, they very much got that down, and that's good in some ways because, like you say, it is more polished, and I think it leads to maybe a very consistent aesthetic throughout the album. We talk about that sonic identity quite a lot when we talk about albums, and I think as a listen from start to finish, you know, each track has the same sonics, the same identity to it, and that makes for a good back to front listening experience. But it also, you could argue, maybe takes a bit of the pizzazz out of it.
Yeah, I do think it's a bit slower. I think the drums are heavier in this one than the first one, and I've also got that it's just a slower album than the first one.
Yeah, I remember when this came out, actually, and we were in college, and Raph came in, and he was talking to Ant about it, because Ant hadn't heard it yet, and Raph was like, it's good, it's interesting, like, they've slowed the tempo down a bit, it's a bit weird, it's not as housey, and it definitely has more of those R&B flavours in it, even just looking at, like, the vocal features, you know what I mean? Like, getting someone like The Weeknd or getting someone like Lord on it is going to add a different flavour. And I think they do work well over those slower beats.
I think there's a lot of songs that I prefer from Disclosures when they are more pop structured.
Yeah.
It just works. Whatever they're doing, it works. Like, obviously, the house stuff and the dancey stuff, obviously, is fine and it's great music.
Maybe that's what the third album was missing.
Yeah.
The sort of song element of it wasn't quite there in the same way that some of the bigger songs on this, like Omen, is a good song at the core of it. You know what I mean? Outside of the housey production or whatever.
Just even like thinking about singles, like that third album, like I couldn't pick a single off that. Do you know what I mean? Like how are you promoting that? 'Cause it's like we're saying, it's more like a collection of body of work than a running album, like story wise. But did you notice on this second album that you've stolen 2 title names?
Jaded and
Nocturnal.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, no, I didn't even think
That's
about
strange,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good job.
I was reading the titles on Spotify when you slide dog.
Yeah.
You slide dog.
I realised about Jaded, but I didn't think about Nocturnal.
But yeah, I'm just trying to read through a lot of notes. One thing that this has better than the third album is like dynamics.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I noticed. Like as the albums were leading on, they just got a little, I don't know, lesser. They're less dynamic than the previous one.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm putting it in the middle.
Yeah.
Because it is not as good as the first one.
Yeah.
But better than the third one. You know what I mean?
That's
That's mansplaining, middleness.
Yeah, I was watching a Chris Martin interview the other day. Just side note, and he said he mentioned mansplaining about something, and then he said that he'd come up with a good joke, which is you know what mansplaining is, right?
He's a witty man, you know.
Well, he's a very funny guy.
Just the philanthropy gets in the way.
Yeah, I'm down for it, man. I'm down for it.
That's just because you like him.
That's a side note, anyway.
But anyway, moving on to the first one.
Well, hang on, can I just I've got one more point about the second one. Is I think it's a good display of like how much more songy it is by the fact that Howard sings 2 of those songs, which he features on like a good 2 or 3 of the first album, but this time it's a full song. It's like a verse chorus thing. Like he's written a song rather than on the first album, for instance, like F for You, which is just like a mantra almost.
When it did come up with their own vocals, like I preferred it.
Yeah, I've heard people say that about that second album. I did like it. It's a good play. They should do it more, to be fair.
Yeah,
I like
how singing. Aren't
they? Yeah, I do like it.
But I don't know what it is about them, whether they just feel like more free, maybe they got more control, obviously knowing that they're doing something so they can, change stuff or do stuff certain ways, rather than, like rely or depend on someone else or bring something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time there was a fully like disclosure track, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I was hoping for.
Yeah. So,
but they both got, to be fair, like 5.5s.
Crazy.
Out of 10s, which is mad.
Yeah.
Because like even though that's what I mean, it's very like a median score.
Yeah.
I like them very much. I just think the good songs were good, and the lesser songs were lesser.
Yeah. Pointing out the obvious today.
Again, saying.
Talk to me about Settle then, the debut album. I'm going to start off actually by saying it's got hits.
This first run of songs is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is a joke. Well, we've said this, to be fair, about other albums and how like the debut album has a lot of massive hits that go on for years and years, but that first 5 songs...
Like When a Fire Starts to Burn, Latch is up there in the first 5, White Noise is up there in the first 5, I believe.
And then F for You, yeah.
F for You, crazy.
And obviously that intro is that's a good intro to a first album.
Yeah, I think so. It sets out the tone really
well. It does,
yeah.
Like that, even that first song, like, sets what they're going to do very well. It's like, oh, this is the sort of album I'm going to listen to.
Yeah. And I think it continues that aesthetic really well, and even though it's not, like I was saying, it's not as straightforward house music or straightforward garage as maybe the third album is, that works in its favour. It's more interesting because it has this aesthetic that runs right through it, but it also changes its formula a bit, like Latch having the sort of like the 3/4 like shuffle thing going on. And then there's tunes that are more garagey and a bit more, like you say, club tracks like Stimulation or You and Me, which is very, very UKG.
I didn't realise that was on this album, that song.
You and Me?
Yeah, because it's is it Bloom that samples it?
Yeah, there's a Flume remix.
That's a good song. And I didn't realise that. And also, like, the last track with London Grammar.
Great tune.
Fucking... That's a song that, like, I've heard. I just didn't know who it was or who it was by. And I was amazed when it came on. I was like, this is the last thing I expected.
That's a really good song.
It's a really good song. That's what I mean. Like, it's got more tracks than than obviously the 2 later albums. And it flows better. Like I always say, like 10 songs goes pretty well.
How many are we sitting at here?
14 first album.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is longer
it doesn't feel like it.
No, it doesn't. I wouldn't have put it at 14. I would have said 11 or 12.
Like,
definitely.
And then I think it goes like a 10 in the second album, maybe, and then like we said for like 12 or something on the third one.
Yeah.
But like it just flows so well, and like a lot of later albums with obviously the pure like dance tracks and like house tracks, like I said, get a bit more repetitive. Where this is just a bit more free flowing. Like the songs are over kind of before you know it.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
It's songy in it.
There's a lot of pop hits on it, man. You think about Latch, you think about White Noise, you think about You and Me. These are like out and out pop songs, and that's kind of what drew me to Disclosure in the first place. Is they were doing something interesting, making music that is very influenced by this house and garage, but also has such a pop element to it, and is so catchy and so hooky and so like radio friendly.
When I think of Disclosure, I think of White Noise.
Yeah,
that's what comes into my head. That sort of It is still a bit rumbly, a bit jungly, isn't it? But like you're saying, like it's just like pop structured, but they do it well and it works. But fair enough to them, obviously, like as they're going down the line, they're changing shit up, they're going into different avenues.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said though, and I notice this in my own production sometimes, that like when you get to a point where you know what you're doing a bit more and you get like comfortable, you can get a bit formulaic. So like if you're not constantly trying to push the boat out, like because at the time this was probably, they were at the limits of their production ability.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Whereas the third album, it sounds easy to them. It sounds like they can just churn out. And you know, and I've seen them on stream. They can just churn out these house bangers. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it keeps that spice when you're working at the very limits of what you can do. And also, crazy, this first Disclosure album was made and mixed and stuff with only stock Logic plugins. That's crazy.
I don't think that is that crazy.
I think that's absolutely wild.
Because if you're good, aren't you? You don't need all like this.
Yeah, and we know that, but it is just mad to think about. Like, I'm pretty sure like Guy won an award for the mixing of this album, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, it sounds so authentic and like analog and shit." And he's like, "Just Logic stock shit, man."
I think like listening to it back, so it's like I said, I'm not into Disclosure as much as you are.
Yeah.
And even like through the past, because this first album coming out in 2013 is almost like 10 years.
Yeah.
Album, but it sounds. What I'm trying to get to is like that time, 2013, like in my life, I feel like was a good time.
Yeah.
Fucking can't tell you shit what happened or whatever, but I know it was a good time, and maybe that comes through that sort of way. Like I'm kind of maybe attached to that album a bit more.
Yeah.
Like subconsciously, maybe.
Yeah, because some of those tunes were everywhere back then. They were like, in the UK, man.
Going back to FU, like in college. Like I know you said you hated it at the time.
I didn't hate it. Just backstory to this is like, me and Jack both did the same.
Yeah, we went to college together.
The music technology course that we did. And part of that was you had to do a live performance involving like electronic elements.
Music technology.
Yes.
If you will.
And one of the songs we did was Disclosure's F for You.
Yeah.
I don't think we murdered it. I feel like
no, I think we did well. That was the first time I heard that song, you know.
Same. I don't know who.
It was Tim.
Was it?
Probably
who got
Tim.
onto us, yeah. Tim or Raph, definitely. So at the time, I was kind of maybe got a bit sick of it.
Yeah, because we obviously had to practice like a lot. We was all learning new sort of shits, new ways of like sampling and putting onto different MIDI controllers, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I played guitar on it, which there isn't any guitar on it, but I still.
Did you?
We out here, yeah. You know, like the little like. Little like beeps. I just did that on the guitar.
I can't remember. I did. I think I did. Did I play the Korg?
Maybe. No.
Tim did the bass on the SBD.
Yeah. This is mad side tangent. I don't know. We'll watch it in a bit. It's still on Facebook, man. It's on Facebook. In fact, you know what? I'll put it in. If you're watching the YouTube version, I'll put a snippet in.
Disgusting behaviour.
Funny.
Outed, man.
Very
Outed.
Funny. Yeah. But yeah, I just think it is sort of, it's very like of its time, but I think it's lasted quite well because of the classic nature of it.
It's just so raw. And like that, you know, ironically, the energy is in that first album.
Yeah. That's
where like everything is for me. Like you said, it's just like a bit magical the way like they produce that, like you say, on their own, stock plugins and whatnot. But the songs are bangers. Even the features, to be fair, on that first album are big features.
Yeah.
Like Aluna and George at the time were popping off. Obviously, Sam Smith at the time was just starting off. So I remember I said to you before, haven't I, that when I watched Emily Sandé back in the day, Sam Smith was a support act.
Right.
He's like, I don't know if you know, but I've got a song with Disclosure. Like, fuck off. But Eliza Doolittle, Jamie Woon,
all these people,
Jessie Ware, London Grammar,
like on it at the time.
Yeah,
man.
that's mad, that innit? Like looking back to it, and they're all together on that one project, and it's as good as it's as good as it is knowing that the personnel.
Yeah. I think it is almost like it's captured that time really well.
Indeed,
because of the features, because of the sounds it was using. You know, very much like that house comeback thing that was going on at the time.
Yeah, we always talk about like certain genres or tracks being signed at the time, and this is definitely one of those.
And it could have been really corny, you know, because it was such a house comeback thing that was going on at the time. It could have just been very derivative, but I still think it's an interesting album. And I think that the hits nature of it has probably landed Disclosure a career for the rest of their lives.
100%, yeah. What they've done there is like you just said, set them off on a path to where they are now, and obviously they've done a lot of big things, still doing big things now. But I think what I like about Disclosure is the personalities behind it, because they're just so normal.
Yeah.
They're just so down to earth, guys. And like when you're saying you're watching the streams and they're just in the bedroom and they're showing you what they're doing, it's like, just play that for us, mate.
Yeah.
It's just so easy going, and that must be obviously. I don't know what everyone else is like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I can only assume that that's why it is as good as it is.
It probably partly comes from being in a band with your brother as well, you know what I mean? They just seem to get on.
That could be someone's fucking worst nightmare, that.
Well,
Oasis, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
Oasis.
Definitely.
More like no Oasis, am I right?
Yeah.
Lol.
But yeah, great. I'd say that they're a really good act. They're a really good band, if you want to call them band. I still always look forward to listening to what they're going to come out with. Now, I'm excited for the next album because, like I say, some of the stuff they've done post Energy has been better than...
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, actually, thinking what sort of... Because one thing that always surprises me is that people, like, produce things before waves and, like, they catch it right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they somehow, like, I don't know, there must be something in the water, but, like, they make something and the time it's released, it's quite popping and popular.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, obviously, to think what they've done over the time frame they've done it, what comes next.
Yeah, I think the time is ripe for them to sort of push and get a bit weirder and a bit more experimental.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the sense that maybe they do a little bit too. And I hope they do, because it would make for a more interesting album than Energy.
Yeah.
And I know they're in the studio working on stuff now, so hopefully that'll come soon, and we'll maybe even review it if it turns out to be any good.
That would be good.
On the channel.
Yeah, it'd be good to... if they do something pretty soonish and we can review it quite quick.
Okay, well, in true stereotypical ranked fashion, let's do our favourite song from each album.
Okay.
So
we're going from the least.
We can do, yeah. We'll start with Energy if you want.
Yeah, mine will be the same as yours. Mali.
Yeah, definitely Mali. I like My High as well, to be fair, but yeah, we'll go Mali.
I think that I like that closing song, to be fair.
I'm not even,
Reverie. I'm not, is that how you're going to say it? I was going to say I'm not going to try and butcher.
Reverie, it's not hard to say.
This looks French.
Yeah, well, there is, more French than where we are?
No, Ce n'est pas.
Yeah.
Anyway, second one.
I'm going to go Magnets, featuring Lord.
You got to go home, and man, that's a behemoth of a tune.
You do love that tune. And then the first album?
The first album is pretty hard. Like, I've got Latching Bold. There must have been what I thought was the best at the time, doing the notes. But that helped me lose my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Gets to me, man.
Yeah, it's emotional in it as well. It's got that vibe. It's like...
London Grammar's so good.
That, like, slight nostalgia to it, man.
But is it better than Latch, though?
I think it's more personal than
I'm going to go with...
Hits you more in the feels than Latch
Again,
does.
just because when I heard it, I was like, oh my fucking God, it's that song.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you've forgotten a word and it's there and you just don't know what it is, that's the sort of feeling I was like, oh my God, and I liked it straight away, saved to a playlist.
Yeah.
So that'll be on repeat in my
I'd say White Noise or Help Me Lose My Mind. I do also like Stimulation as like a dance.
White Noise is built different, bro.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Built different.
An absolute hit. Well, there you go. That is the end of our Disclosure ranked episode. So there you have it. That was Disclosure ranked. Now, obviously, as we said at the start of the episode, they've recently dropped their fourth album, Alchemy, just out the blue at like 4 days' notice, which is a nice treat. I was happy.
What it was? It was quick, wasn't it?
It was literally like they announced it on like the Wednesday, the Tuesday, I think, and then it dropped Friday.
All I know is I got a notification on Spotify saying like, oh, coming out Friday, and I was like, fuck!
Yeah, literally no one saw it coming. There was no singles released from it. They had been teasing Higher Than Ever before in like DJ sets and on TikTok and stuff like that.
Really?
Trying to get a bit of hype going for that, I think. But no one really knew. Who knew? as Disclosure would say, that it was going to come out. Always a pleasant surprise. I mean, as I think we said in the original episode, I'll always look forward to a new Disclosure album.
Yeah, I can't really remember how we finished that one, but it is good.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah, and I will see you later, guys.
It didn't leave.
I was shocked.
Why?
Well, first of all, again, I didn't really expect anything, so I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And I think the way it starts is like very classic Disclosure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that sort of synth, sort of pad sound was sort of back throughout. But obviously, going on what we've just mentioned before, like those albums, it just got like a bit more techy and a bit more houseier.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very, very good middle ground
You think?
between like maybe album 2 and 3. Do you know what I mean? In the way it was progressing in terms of that sort of genre.
Okay, that's interesting.
I still don't think it's as songy.
No,
enough.
it's definitely not, and especially I think the lack of vocal features meant that it wasn't as like the structure wasn't as pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they are sort of known for when they have just Howard singing, it's often like a refrain that repeats. You know what I mean? And there is a lot of that on the record. Not a bad thing though. I quite enjoyed it.
I am very happy with the vocals on there.
Yeah.
Yes, I think if there was anyone else on there, it would have ruined it for me.
Really?
Yeah, because like again, when we're on about like progress and stuff, like they've been there, they've done that, haven't they? Like the past album, that third one, like is a lot of different artists on there singing.
Yeah.
Where I feel like this one is just like honed in on what they was good at originally and just fucking really excelled on it.
It's definitely more about the music, I think, than
I think this is the best sounding album.
mix wise and stuff. Do you think?
Like I think this is out of this world, man.
Really?
I was thinking, listening to some of these songs, like if this was Calvin Harris, and like just that name attached to it straight away, I think it would do very very well.
I didn't think you'd like this. Not gonna lie, because it's like I like it. Just in fact, before we get into that, just let me say, a lot of the vocals reminded me almost of like hyper pop stuff, you know, because the tempo's a bit faster and the vocals are like there's a lot of pitching and a lot of tuning going on, a lot of weird layering of stuff. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I listened to it and I'm not gonna lie, like first listen, I was kind of like, I wasn't like, oh, this is shit, but I was like, yeah. It didn't
really. I was the opposite.
It didn't really leave me with anything. The more I've listened to it, and like certain songs have got those hooks that have been getting stuck in my head because the vocals are so repetitive. It does get stuck with you, and that's what I think is bringing me back to it a bit because I've been re-listening to it over like yesterday and today. But the day it dropped and I first listened to it, nothing really caught my ear. You know, like when you listen to an album, and there'll be some songs that's like, oh yeah, fine, but then there's some where it's like, woo, heater. You know what I mean? There wasn't any of that for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that first song, that Looking for Love, I was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
I was like, if the rest of the album is like this, then I'm in for a treat. One thing I do, first of all, 11 songs, 37 minutes.
He fucking loves it.
That's crazy, innit? It's quick.
Yeah.
And it goes quick.
Yeah, and well, like I say as well, I think it's a faster tempo than they've done before.
Yeah, like some of the songs that are like 4 minutes and are a bit more dancier and a bit houseier, and more drums and bass driven, I do think could have been shorter. Like, I think in the past when I've been listening to stuff, I've been looking at where the time frame is, where I've tried not to do that. Because, like, if I know it's already at, like, 2 minutes and not much has happened, I'm like, it's a bit shit.
Yeah.
So I tried to, like...
just feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though I've been doing that, some songs I think are a little bit too long, just in terms of, like, progression and, like, the repetitiveness of, like, what you were saying. Like, it's just a hook sometimes and a bass line.
Yeah.
But I understand that, like, if they're DJing in the club, that's what people like.
I think it's a weird breed of dance music on this one because it's not. I feel like the last album was very like the housey moments were housey and there was a lot of like obvious garage moments in there.
Right.
And like I get what you're saying about this being a bit like more techy and it is like stripped back in that elements, but it's also like it's not obvious in a lot of places. Like it's major key wise in a lot of it, which is kind of unexpected.
It's a good blending, isn't it?
And I think that sort of slightly higher tempo mixed with the major key, mixed with like a lot of the synths sounds in it. It's very like bright. The whole thing's quite like positive sounding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I appreciated that about it. I will say, it's quite a, like I say, it didn't catch me first time around, but it is quite a fun listen.
I'm surprised of how much I do like this.
So am I. I'm surprised.
Coming off the past two albums, and how like what I like about that first one is how like it's like songs, where these aren't like songs, more like beats, aren't they? You know what I mean? Sort of thing. I disagree with maybe like the track listing.
What, like the running order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it starts off like pumping and it ends quite somber. I like the theming of like, you know, when he has like them recorded sounds sort of things.
Yeah.
I do like that. I wish they would have kept it more current and flowing.
Because it sort of just comes in. And
they do it for like the first three and then it kind of goes and comes back towards the end. But I think that was good. I just wish they did a bit more.
Yeah. Like have a consistent theme, I guess.
If you're gonna do it, you may as well do it.
Yeah. I did think that because I thought, like you say, like first three songs, I was thinking, okay, this is like.
It's like a story.
Yeah, it's almost like a how they used to do on mixtapes with like skits and stuff like that. It's like there's going to be a thing throughout it, and then it came back in towards the end, and I'd almost forgotten that it was there in the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, where did that go? You know what I mean? Like, but it is cool. I enjoyed it.
I really like the vocals. I enjoy the actual music more than the past two. I ranked it.
Okay.
I know where I'd slip it in the order.
Where would you slip it in?
Do you know where you'd slip it in? Well, you got to
well, we have the same order.
We'd agreed, on everything. I would controversially put this second.
I knew you were going to say that. No, I'd maybe put it right now.
Right now.
Third or fourth. I like it, but it's not knocking me off my feet. Like I say though, I do find myself wanting to repeat listen, you know what I mean? Bits of it are getting stuck with me and going, oh, I kind of want to listen to that song again because that hook's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
So I think it's with time it will grow, and I'll even now like having listened to it like on the third or fourth listen, I'm appreciating like some of the nuances in the production a bit more and stuff like that.
I think in time it'll grow on you, because just thinking of like that third album, which we still put bottom of the three, but you got some songs on there that you really like.
Yeah.
An issue like I have with this at the minute, obviously, because it's still quite new. It's only been out like a few days now when we're doing this. Because the track listing is a bit bunched up in terms of like the energy and what they do. Like I'm getting a bit confused in like what songs which.
Yeah.
So like what you're saying, like the hooks and the melodies that get in my head, I can't pinpoint what song it actually is, because like it is quite similar throughout.
Yeah, it's a bit same, to be fair. But I quite enjoyed it. It is a good listen. Like it's good fun.
I'll have this on a bit over the summer.
Yeah, and like I say, I can see it growing on me. So yeah, all in all, not a bad album.
Starts well, ends well, bit of a in the middle.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'd put it as my second favourite.
Great. Well, there you go.
Well,
thank you for listening and watching this episode of Stereotypical Ranked. If you're watching on the YouTube version, all the links to our social media, Instagram, TikTok and all that will be in the description. If you are listening to the audio-only version, please do subscribe on whatever platform you are on. Helps us out a lot. Thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Bye.
Does my life still sound the same?